Hello and welcome to World of Warcraft Multiboxing. I am the Red Menace, and today we're going to be doing our level 20 warrior update. Right now I am running towards Dunmara in order to get close to some enemies that will allow me to test out my buttons as I create them. So I'm just going to run down here. There should be some wolves or something up ahead of me. So there we are. And we'll just stop here. So to start our update, we're going to want to go into Discord action bars, which is /DAB. And I'm going to come in here, and we are going to start with this E button, which is our very first floater. And now we've got everything set up from our level 10 update. Let's go into our actions. And we're going to take a look at our new spells. So we want Demoralizing Shout. We're going to want a Defensive Stance button. So I think that's all the spells we want. Now we're going to need to make some macros to use the other new spells that I need. Sunder Armor, Revenge, and Shield Block. So we'll go ahead, we'll create a new macro. And I'm going to use the Sunder Armor icon, because that is the primary purpose of this button, is to apply Sunder Armor. But it's going to do a couple other things as well. So this macro is going to be a combination of the Revenge spell, the Shield Block spell, and the Sunder Armor spell. Now when I create these, macros worked quite a bit differently. In the very first version, they changed it quite a bit for the second expansion, the Burning Crusade. But in this version of World of Warcraft, the spells that you put in, so I'm going to put in Revenge, Shield Block, and Sunder Armor in that order. Don't need the rank 1. I'll take that out of there, just for the sake of efficiency. So the reason I've set these in this order is I want to prioritize the Revenge spell, because it activates only after a block, dodge, or parry. And I believe it's if your opponent or whoever you're fighting is, or whoever you're fighting blocks, dodges, or parries. And it's on a 5-second cooldown. It doesn't activate the global cooldown, and that's important. And then shield block is second. It's an instant, meaning it doesn't have the same condition as Revenge, but it's on a 5-second cooldown. And it doesn't activate the global cooldown. And then we've got regular Sunder Armor. It has no cooldown other than the global 1.5 second cooldown. It might be 2 second. Whatever the global cooldown is in vanilla. And when I press this button, this macro is going to activate all of these abilities at once, if possible. So if I hit this button and my opponent hasn't dodge, blocked, or parry, that won't matter. It's going to activate whichever one is first, but it's going to try and activate all of them at the same time. So if Revenge isn't active, meaning that my opponent hasn't dodged, blocked, dodged, or parried, the next thing it's going to do is try and activate shield block, which, if I haven't used it in 5 seconds, it will be active, so it's going to activate that one first. And then if I hit the button a second time within that 5-second window, it will then move on to Sunder Armor and activate that if these two don't get activated before it. Which works out pretty well. Sometimes the shield block will activate rather than the Sunder Armor, and you don't want it to, but it's not that big a deal. So that's why I've set this up. If you're setting up macros in your own way, or you have an idea for a macro, just remember, and you can probably find on Google the specific rules to vanilla macros. But that's the one we want. I'd probably end up reordering these. Okay, now that's just our Heroic Strike macro. This Heroic Strike macro, I want it to prioritize Revenge before Heroic Strike. So this way, and actually I think the way Heroic Strike works is, even if Revenge goes off, Heroic Strike will become active if there's enough mana. Because it's a spell that activates on the next melee attack, so it's a little weird. But I think we're good. That will update there. Now let's not rename it. Now I'm also going to make a Cleave Revenge macro. And I guess I've already copied that. So this one we're going to put Revenge at the top. And we're going to have it cast Cleave rather than Heroic Strike. I don't think there's any reason I don't believe there's any reason not to have shield block in both of these macros as well. since these are tanking macros, if you were going to make it for, say, an arms warrior or a revenge, a DPS warrior, you wouldn't want revenge and shield block. You'd want to be using overpower and mortal strike and whatever other spells DPS warriors get or prioritize. Okay, so we'll put that there. And I believe I'm done with both macros and spells. So first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to swap Demoralizing Shout with Battle Shout. I'm going to put Charge up there, and I'm just going to move everything here down one. I don't think I really need Rend. Or at least it shouldn't be a priority. Instead of Heroic Strike there, we're going to put my Sunder Armor macro. And I'm setting these actions based on the order that I'm going to have them in my button controls. Let's see, let's move these down one more. We're going to put Defensive Stance up there. Okay, so let's go back to our button. So let's see, this is going to be our shoot, right? Shoot gun. Shoot gun. Blood Rage. And this one will be Demoralizing Shout. We want to remember to update the... Oh. Actually, no. We don't want to do that. Okay, so that updates it to the change in the actions we had. Although I'm going to move Battle Shout up further, which means I need to set this to 26. And we need to set that back to our Sunder Armor macro. So next I'm going to want to deal with defensive stance. So we want to select shape shift form inactive. And we're going to want defensive stance. And we're going to set action defensive stance. And I want to move this up so this one will be overridden by 1 and 2. So yes, shoot gun, blood rage. That's good. Or no. That's gonna be 1. And 3. Now we want to add, let's see, we want to go with debuff inactive on target, and we want it to set action to demoralizing shout. Let's go ahead and add that conditional. We're going to want to move it below blood rage, but above battle shout. So let's see, we've got defensive stance, shoot gun, blood rage, demoralizing shout, battle shout, and sunder armor. Okay. So I've got all my skills set, but I want to add a couple of conditionals to the ones I've got. So I'm going to start with demoralizing shout. Now this shout costs 10 rage. So I want the game to not change the button until I have enough rage to actually cast the spell. And we do that with the mana. And the way this checks is, I mean, technically warriors have rage, not mana, but it acts the same way. Think of a warrior as having 100 mana rather than 100 rage. So, we want this, if the mana is less than... Let's see, it costs 10 to cast. I'm going to go with 20. This one's going to have no response. Okay. Now I also want to add one for Battle Shout. I don't want to use it until I have excess mana to use, because the primary purpose of this button is to gain aggro after I pull when I'm in an instance. So we're going to set this one to less than 30. So if I have more than 30 mana, then it'll cast Battle Shout. If I have less, then it's going to move to the next condition I have set. So we'll go ahead and add that condition. We're going to put it above the ability that we want to go off. Oh, and I need to edit this because it's set to the wrong one. Okay, so let's finish our override numbers. So we want Demoralizing Shout to be overridden by condition 1. Condition 3. Condition 4. And condition 5. So I'm going to take, I'm going to click Edit on Demoralizing Shout, and then I'm going to click Edit on Battle Shout, and that carries these numbers over so that I don't have to retype them. Now we don't want it overridden by 5, because that's a condition only intended for the condition beneath it. We do want it overridden by number 6, and then we also want it overridden by 7. So we'll go ahead, we'll add that condition. We'll go ahead and come over here, we'll delete these conditionals, and we'll just carry those down. All we need to do with this one is just replace 7 with 8. And now our button should be ready to go. So let's test it real quick. So right now, I'm in battle stance, so my tanking gang aggro macro switches to that. Oh. That's right. These buttons change when I switch over into defensive stance. I'm going to have to decide on whether I want to keep that function or not. But for right now, let's just find ourselves a wolf. So you can see as I go in and out of range of my gun, it switches back and forth between Blood Rage and Shoot Gun. We'll go ahead, we'll shoot the wolf. And then it casts Blood Rage. And then now you see I have more than 20 rage, so it wants me to cast Demoralizing Shout. And then it will stick on my Sunder Armor macro until it went up above 30. So as far as I can tell, that macro is working perfectly. Well, except now. I think it only shows that while I'm still in combat. Now, if I come to this Elder Cragboar, you can see it switches between Shoot and Sunder Armor, but that's because Blood Rage is on cooldown. You can actually see it over here. And once it comes off cooldown, then it will switch back and forth between Sunder Armor, or between Shoot and Blood Rage. So, that button is working perfectly. Let's switch back into Berserker stance. And we'll open our Discord action bars again. So, that's going to be under our main bar, the F, R, T, and V keys. How many buttons do I have? Just the 4 on each. Oh, but there's... Okay, so those are my... battle stance buttons, and then when I switch it to there, it must be that. Okay. So my F button is my tanking button, my single target tanking button. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to come back here to the button that I just finished. I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to copy, and this copies all the conditionals in the button. And then we're going to come down to button 2 and we're going to paste. So you can see that all those conditionals are now in here. And now my button hasn't updated because the action ID is set to a blank one, and it won't change until it's set to one that actually, or a non-empty button. Okay. So I want to make some changes to this. So we'll go back to our main bar. We'll leave the defensive stance. We want to take out the shoot gun macro. I don't really see a need to cast Blood Rage when I'm using my F key. We will keep the Demoralizing Shout and the Battle Shout where they are. And then it's just my Revenge, or my Sunder Armor macro. Is there anything else I need to add? So what I'm thinking about is whether or not I want to add a Heroic Strike macro for when I have a lot of extra rage. I think I do. I think what we'll do is we'll put it as a no condition. It'll just be set action. If I can find said action. Oh, there it is. And it will be... Well, it's going to be 27. It's empty right now, but that's because I didn't move these up. So we'll move that up one. And now we want to add another mana conditional. It's less than, let's go with 50. Oh, and we want no response there. So let's go ahead and hit add. And we'll move this up and up. So now we need to set our conditional number, our condition numbers. And this one is just going to be 1, 2. This one is going to be 1, 3, 4. Oop. And this one will be 1, 3, 5. And 6. Since we're changing the buttons on the main bar, we don't get as much space in our little Discord action bar window to actually do this. If you wanted to, you could set one of these conditionals up, create the button there, and just copy paste it into there. If you're working with more complicated macros or button actions, like one that's 15, 20 long, I would definitely recommend doing that. But this one's short enough that I can kind of remember what I'm doing here. Okay, so I got that set up. 1, 3, 5, 6. So button 8 is going to be overridden by 1, 3, 5, and 7. Okay, so let's give it a test. I think we're ready. So first thing, we're going to switch into battle stance. I'm not sure why that one is set to defensive stance. But it doesn't really matter at this point. Okay. So we're going to go ahead and we're going to shoot this wolf. And I'll ignore the blood rage for now. No, let's go ahead and hit blood rage. Okay. That seems to be working. as you can see in my combat log here, Revenge went off, Sunder Armor worked, and Shield Block worked. So, that's looking good. Let's go back into Discord action bars. And let's switch to that. Yeah, that's... I think I had that just set at Revenge. I'm not sure why it's like that, but it doesn't matter to me. Okay, so now we're going to want to come into the button we just finished. We're going to want to copy it, and we're going to want to paste it to button 2 here. And it's going to do exactly the same thing. The difference, though, is instead of Heroic Strike, we want to use Cleave. Now, the reason I set that to Cleave rather than Heroic Strike is the way I use these buttons when I'm multiboxing is my E key is the pull and pick up aggro key. My F key is the tank a single target with all of my alts attacking with him. With this button, it's none of my alts don't do anything when I hit the E key, just my warrior. This one, everyone attacks a single target, and then this one is for multiple targets. So say once I've picked up aggro, and say I have 3 mobs I'm tanking, I'll use the R key instead of the F key, because then I can do damage to, you know, the guy next to me with Cleave rather than Heroic Strike. And all my allies will, or all my alts will use multi-target damaging spells when I hit the R key, if they have them. So example, if I had a shaman, the shaman would cast, this one would be regular lightning, and then this one would be chain lightning. I'm trying to think of another class that you'd use an example. Rogues might have, I think Blade Fury? Anyway, anytime you have, you know, an attack that hits more than one mob, excepting AoE attacks, and that's what I actually use my T key for, is just AoE attacks. And for my warrior, Piercing Howl is a good spell if you go Protection and Fury. You could set Piercing Howl to your T key, as well as, in fact, we can set the T key to Demoralizing Shout as an AoE for him. Well, and actually, yeah, Warrior really doesn't need the T key. In fact, I'll probably just copy. In fact, let's do that right now. Except I didn't. Okay, so we'll just leave the T key there. Yes, everything else should need to be changed. We'll go ahead, we'll hit E to change into defensive stance. We'll shoot this wolf. And we will cast Blood Rage. We'll hit them with Demoralizing Shout. Now I want to wait and let him attack me until I get 50 rage. Maybe I need to pick up a few more wolves. So there was my battle shout. It went off when I had above 30. Like that. And maybe I'll attack a boar. Okay, so now you can see that my cleave and other macros did indeed go off. Once it was above 50, I might set that back down to 30. I don't know why I loot these guys. The loot's not worth very much. So, I believe that is going to be everything we need to do for our warrior. So I'll go ahead and we'll end this video here. Next I'll be doing setting up the level 20 interface for my priest. Maybe I'll do the mage first. Well, either way, I will see you in the next video.